Hi, David. First of all, can I just ask first of all about the Snodgrass situation? I know you spoke about it the other day, but there is this Premier League investigation and the threat potentially of a points deduction. Are you confident that everything's above board and you're not concerned about any potential punishments?
I know nothing about that, Roger, what you've said. I've got no idea what you've said has got any element of truth at all involved in it. I don't know where you've got that from, to be honest.
Sorry, in terms of the Premier League investigation into it and potential punishments if they found anything untoward, an agreement that Snodgrass, that there was an agreement that Snodgrass wouldn't play the other day.
Roger, I can't add anything to what I did the other night, but I'm really surprised by your words, to be honest, Roger.
Sorry, in what way, David? Sorry, I don't understand.
You just mentioned points deduction. That's what surprised me. Where you got that from? Have you got that? Have you seen that written somewhere, Roger?
I've just seen it written that there's a potential, but only if they found something untoward. So I was just asking if there was any concern on your part.
So there's no truth in it, is there?
No truth in
what you've just said.
Sorry, I don't understand. I was just asking the question.
I understand your question, Roger.
Roger, should we move on, Roger? Yeah.
But I just wanted to clarify. I was just asking you if you were happy with the situation.
I was only asking you, Roger, where you got the bit about points deduction from, and asking if there was any truth in it from where you got that from. That was all I was asking, because I can't add anything to what your question to me. But I don't see where you get the bit about a points deduction. I don't see where that comes from whatsoever.
Okay, we'll move on. Thanks for answering that anyway, David. If I can talk about West Ham's current form. I was reading that it's the best start after this many games for 35 years. And from your point of view, is it the happiest and most comfortable you've been as a manager in terms of where a club is, perhaps since the Everton or early Manchester United days, in terms of what you can hope for the club going forward? Is it the most comfortable time for you?
Well, it's always much better when you're working with players that are winning. It's much more enjoyable for the manager. It gives you something that you feel good about as well. So the players here have really been exceptional since I've come back. I've so much enjoyed it, working with the staff around the club, working with the people here. But the players have been great, and hope it continues. But we can't take it for granted. We want to keep winning. We want to keep this good feeling going. We want to keep the momentum going. So hopefully the players can do that.
And just in terms of building on what you've started there, the transfer window is open. We know a couple of players did go out, and you said that you perhaps would be looking to bring in. Is there any progress? The likes of Josh King have been mentioned. And is it easier, perhaps, in the form or position you're in, to attract the players that you're hoping to bring in?
Well, I hope the higher up the league we go, I've always found that makes it a more attractive club for players to come to. West Ham is an attractive club. I believe in can become better in the future as well. So I hope that is the case. I've got no big news on transfers at the moment. There's nothing really changed from what I've said as well, because we're not only are we in a difficult transfer window, we're in a really busy time. You've got game after game. So it's not as if you're putting as much time and effort into the transfers, because obviously we're concentrating every week on preparing the team or recovering the team and getting them ready for another game.
The next game is Doncaster in the FA Cup. They're in good form at the moment. Does the fact that they're playing so well, I think they've one defeat in 8 games or something like that, does that influence your team selection in terms of the squad that you'd send to that game? And I'm thinking of people like Michail Antonio, who's working his way back to fitness, getting the minutes in. Is this a time to give him a rest, or do you go as strong as you possibly can?
Well, I want to win the FA Cup if I can. I really do. I want to be strong in the cup competitions. But I'm also got to be mindful of the amount of games we're playing. And I think it's really beginning to take its toll on so many clubs. We've been good with injuries, and I want to keep it that way at the moment. We've had a couple of injuries like everybody else, but we've got a squad of players. I'll use the squad of players, but my intention is to be as strong as I feel as if I can be for this game.
And just finally from me, we're asking your managers at the moment, the talk about a European Super League has come up again. Suggestions that any player playing in it would have to forfeit the right to play in FIFA sanctioned competitions and so on. Can you see a competition like that getting off the ground, and whether players would be able to sacrifice that opportunity for those big tournaments?
Roger, I've not seen enough about it, I've read enough about it to understand it exactly, so I'm not really capable of giving you an opinion on it. But all I can say is I think I've been really impressed with the Champions League over recent years, and more longer than that. I think it's been a really good tournament. I think it's something which we see the top teams in Europe playing in. So I don't really know any more than that, but I've been happy with the Champions League, to be honest, and the Europa League. I think's turned into more successes as the years has gone on.
We'll go to Ian from TalkSport.
Hi David, how are you?
How are you doing? Good, thanks.
On the 2 occasions you came to the club as manager, it was to save them from relegation, which you did on both occasions. You now find yourself battling to try and get into Europe. Is this maybe even exceeded your expectations, how quickly you've turned West Ham around?
It's not really exceeded the expectations what I hope to get to. Maybe the quickness, I would say, is the biggest thing, because this time last year we were fighting really hard to avoid relegation. We were just all about to go into lockdown, and and I thought that the games programme we had when I came in looked really, really, really bad. The games we had to play. So I think the big thing was trying to get the boys on side, making sure that they're all going the right direction. Could we avoid relegation? And we got there, and we've done that brilliantly well after lockdown. So I'm not saying I'm surprised, but I'm saying that I'm pleased how quickly we've done it and got to the point. But again, some things make a difference, in a couple of the young signings we brought in, bringing in Thomas Tuchek and Jared Bowen and people that really helped. I think the massively improving Declan Rice as he's gone on, the form of Angela Bonner. We saw Mickey Antonio develop from a winger into a centre forward. You've seen Aaron Creswell sort of form lift up where he was getting talked about getting into the England squad in different positions. So I think you'd have to say the improvement in the players individually has been fantastic. So they deserve all the credit for how they've done that.
You say you want to win the FA Cup. I was there in 1980 as a much younger, much less grey and much slimmer. And I love West Ham to go and win the FA Cup, but you get the impression that for however hard teams try, it's still the preserve, if you look through the last few winners since Wigan beat Man City, it's still the preserve of the traditional top 6 to win it. How are you going to go and actually win the FA Cup this year?
Well, first of all, we had to win the first game to get to this round. Now I have to beat Doncaster before I can get any further. So everybody can say it like me. The words are easy to say. I'd love to win the FA Cup. The journey you normally have to go in to get to is normally a long one and quite a difficult one. It's never easy. And also, you're mindful of your players. Where I said to somebody the other day, we're sort of in a period similar to a Christmas period. So nearly the whole of January is similar to our Christmas and New Year period. So it will be impossible for all the clubs to play all the players all the time in all the games, and everybody will say, why do they not put out a stronger team in different games in the Cup to all the managers? But, it is such a busy period. And not only that, as you well know, behind the scenes, not just for footballers, but for everybody in any walk of life, there's COVID out there as well, which is having implications at different clubs as well. So we're all mindful of those things, and hopefully we can get to the Cup final. But obviously the first job is to try and beat Doncaster now, or the second job, I should say, to try and beat Doncaster.
You mentioned Doncaster. For all their players, this is going to be the biggest game of their lives. Unfortunately, no crowd there to cheer them on. But they've lost their best player, their captain, in the last week, been transferred to Preston, Ben Whiteman. Does that make it a little bit easier for you, the fact that Darren Moore's side are going for promotion, have lost their best player? This should be, I won't say a foregone conclusion, but it should be a relatively straightforward task for you.
Well, we've all just watched the Cup ties, I think, about a fortnight ago, and we watched some incredible games where things were really tight, our game included at Stockport. So I don't think there's any game in the FA Cup which you can turn up and say that you're going to win and you roll over. For some reason, it inspires the underdog, whether it's also the media, the hype which gets surrounded by the pressure maybe getting put on the bigger clubs. I think all those things play a part. But I've got to say that we've been really professional. We've gone about our jobs in the right manner. We'll try and do that again. You know, all the players who've been in the squad have had an impact for us. Coming off the bench just have been really important for us. So I hope that some of those players will show exactly what they can do yet again. But we'll go out and try and beat Doncaster. But obviously, it is a big day for them. But we're going to have to make it as hard as we can.
And finally, with teams like Liverpool last night faltering, there's a chance of a Champions League spot or Europa League spot. Arsene Wenger many years ago said that finishing top 4 was like winning a trophy. It's not quite the same, is it, though?
I think it would be for West Ham. So I think if we could do that, it would be the equivalent. If you think where we would have come, and so it's a long way off. But why should we not, in our own way, try and be ambitious? You know, I don't want to be thinking about being round the bottom. I want to think of being up near the top. So where can I be? I don't know. I don't think I can be in those positions, but I'm going to push the players every way we can to try and keep up with the Joneses and see if we can be around the top if we can.
Phil from BBC.
Morning, David. Just going back to Doncaster, actually talking about it. This competition and the League Cup as well. The draw happens. You have quite a tight turnaround time. You've got to prepare for a team that you don't necessarily face very often. So, how much homework are you able to do within the club, within the coaching staff and the analyst staff to prepare yourself for what you may face?
Well, since the draw was made, we've probably watched Doncaster 3 times live, or we've got scouts to watch it, or we've done it through the games. We'll try and prepare the game the exact same as we would do for a Premier League game. But you're right, it's a quick turnaround. With respect, not all our players will know all the Doncaster players, so we have to make them aware of what they've got, their threats, how they play. And I mean, the big thing about how Doncaster are playing at the moment is that they're doing very well in the league. They've got good momentum. They've got a manager who's has got a level of experience with Premier League players and at that level. So we know we're in for a really tough day. I think any teams that have got momentum and playing well in any leagues are always difficult opposition. We even saw that in Stockport the other day. There's always something which makes them do well in the division. I don't think that matters whether it's the Premier League or whether it's one of the lower leagues. So we'll give Doncaster the same respect as we give any Premier League team.
And this year, obviously, we know what's going to come in the next round, should you get through. And a day at the London Stadium is certainly a big incentive. And it's another big incentive, isn't it, in the 5th round, potentially. Does that make it actually even more difficult, the opponents, because the prize on offer the next time round for both teams is pretty spectacular again?
Yeah, but it's also it's something that we want. We want to try and play. I want our players to be playing against the best teams in the league regular, and competing against the best teams in the league regular. Because if you're doing that, it tends to mean that you're involved in quarterfinals, semi-finals, finals. You're involved in big league games if that's the case. And that's what we need to try and go to West Ham. We want to stop the big games being relegation battles. We don't want that. We want to try and make it, we want it to be different mentality, a different look to it. So let's hope we can do that. But again, first things first, and we have to look after Doncaster.
And you were talking earlier about, using your squad. Is that one of the benefits of cup competitions? It's, sometimes the rather maybe disrespectful phrase of, weakened teams or change teams or, fringe players or whatever. Actually, it's an opportunity for you to give game time to members of your squad who maybe have not had as much game time as they would like.
Mm-hmm. I think that will be the same. Every club will make their own decision. I think the difference with this is the amount of games we've got. We've got Crystal Palace on Tuesday night. Crystal Palace don't play tomorrow. We've just come out of two big wins against Burnley and West Brom. So if you don't look at the sort of the bigger picture and where the players are and what we're trying to do, then it becomes difficult. If you look at it as a one-off individual, why did you not play all your players? Then it's an easy thing to say, Phil. I think it's only when you start to look at the bigger situation, then you start to realise, we're having to use players, we're having to try and keep people involved. And ideally, we'd like to use a lot of young players if we could. But unfortunately, so many of the young players have either not had as much training as they normally do, or they've not been in the bubble, or maybe had bouts of isolation. which has made it a little bit more difficult even to involve many of the younger players, which is, I think, not just our club. I think it's disappointing. It'll be disappointing for a lot of young players at clubs where their development could suffer because of it.
Thanks, Phil. Jack
Thanks,
Russell.
Phil.
Morning, David.
Jack, how you doing?
Good, thank you. You just mentioned the younger players there and some in bouts of isolation. Is it Mipo wasn't on the bench on Tuesday? Is it correct that he's in isolation, and do you expect to have him tomorrow?
No, the truth is he had a positive test, Jack. So that's the fact which happened. But the difference is now is he's actually come back and now had a negative test. So we're a little bit in the dark. We're waiting on the doctors and the people coming up with what's correct. But he's missed the best part of another week's training. So that's where we're at with Mipo at the moment.
So further restricts your options for a striker, which are well documented. A lot of fans will obviously, Mick's looking sharp again, but do you get the same sort of wince or anxiety when he goes off on a run and you're waiting to see if he breaks down or not?
Yeah, and that's why we have to think about what we're going to do. But I think there's also part of Mickey Antonio needs a rhythm. I think if you look at his best form, I think quite often I use the word rusty at times for him, and he sometimes needs to get picked up and he's a bit rusty at the start and then he gets into full flow. So we want to keep Mickey going, but obviously we started him, I think it was at Southampton with 20 minutes, then we gave him sort of 30 minutes and then we got him into 90s, a bit longer than maybe we'd want in some games. But I do think that it's the way to sort of get Mickey back up to full fitness. And whatever he's doing at the moment, he's doing a great job for us because he's come up with two massively important goals in two big games for us.
Thanks, Jack. Cameras off, please, Jack. Andy, do you want to start the written first, please? Andy Dillon, sorry.
Andy, how you doing?